We are delighted that you are joining us in the Vital Conversations movement, dealing with issues related to faith, culture, and fighting oppression in the church and world today. I am pleased to introduce Mr. Thomas Kemper, the General Secretary and top executive of the General Board of Global Ministries of the United Methodist Church. He will be talking about what it means to be a mission worker in today's worldwide church. General Secretary Kemper is responsible for personnel, projects, and mission partnerships in more than 130 countries. A native of Germany, Thomas Kemper is the first person from outside the United States elected to lead a United Methodist agency. Prior to his position as General Secretary, he was mission leader for the German Central Conference of the United Methodist Church and was Director of Ecumenical Learning at the Lippe Church, which is a member church of the Ecadil Protestant Church in Germany. He spent 8 years in Brazil as a missionary, where he taught in the Brazilian Theological Seminary in Sao Paulo and engaged in ministry with the poor and new church development. We invite you to stay connected with GCOR by following us on Facebook and Twitter, and by visiting our website to learn more about our work and to find resources to assist you in having your very own vital conversations. And now, it is my very distinct pleasure to present to you General Secretary Thomas Kemper.
I'm Thomas Kemper. Methodism has been a mission movement since its founder, John Wesley, got on a horse in the 1740s to travel throughout England, preaching about the love of God and the meaning of faith in Jesus Christ. And it was Wesley who started the Methodist practice of sending missionaries into lands far and near. To talk today about the United Methodist Church, one segment of the Methodist movement, in order to become an authentically global church, means talking about our missionary identity. Missionaries are a significant mark of Christian self-identity, because missionaries are a major means through which Christianity became a worldwide religion. And it's the way the church continues to take the story of the love of God in Jesus Christ to all people and all places. Not that missionaries are the only important players in the spread of faith in Jesus Christ. Indigenous leaders have equally significant roles. Along with congregations, they provide the shared learning that supports the concept of mission from everywhere to everywhere. This concept, when put into practice, forms the story of what it means to be truly global. The dictionary defines missionary as a person who is sent, usually to a different country, but also to a new part of one's own nation, to do religious work. I like to put the emphasis on sent, because they go with the blessing and support of the church. Missionaries are historically a diverse mixture of men and women from many cultures and many backgrounds. Persons inspired by God and sent to carry out God's mission. For the last 200 years, Methodist and most other Protestant churches have sent missionaries through special organizations, originally called missionary societies. The General Board of Global Ministries, for which I work, is that present-day organization for the United Methodist Church. The very first missionary supported by the very first American Methodist Missionary Society was John Stewart, an African-American lay preacher who worked among the Wyandot Native Americans of Ohio. Several other African Americans were sent as missionaries to Africa in the mid-19th century by missionary societies that later became part of United Methodism. But for the most part, across much of the 19th and 20th centuries, our missionaries were white Americans or Europeans, sent to Africa, Asia, Latin America, sent to the global south. At times, the mission enterprise was closely too closely linked to economic exploitation and colonialism. We look back with regret and sadness at some aspects of mission activity over the last 2 centuries. At the first World Missionary Conference in 1910 in Edinburgh, Scotland, representatives of mission societies in Europe and North America assumed that the Christian nations could convert the non-Christian lands in 1 generation. They gave little attention to the participation in mission of the new churches already in existence in such places as India or Liberia or the Caribbean. The classic commemorative picture of the conference is a black and white one. Not only, I always say, because of the time, but also because there were almost exclusively white men in black suits gathered. The young missionary-receiving churches refused to be excluded any longer from the challenge and responsibility and joy of mission. Following World War II, disappointed with what so-called Christian nations like Germany had done to each other, at another World Missionary Conference held in Canada, the young churches stood up as equals with the older missionary-sending churches. The ecumenical mission movement dropped the terms Christian and non-Christian nations, accepting the concept of mission as partnership in obedience to God. The theology of mission as partnership has led to productive United Methodist mission collaboration around the world. Global Ministries today has mission partnerships in terms of personnel and projects in more than 125 countries. It is through those partnerships that we are blessed with the possibility of having missionaries from everywhere to everywhere. Much of the enthusiasm for mission today comes from areas and populations once considered on the margins. We can now speak of mission from the margins. Today, more than 50% of our global missionaries are originally from outside the United States. This number is growing every year. In 2012, on this map, the picture looked like this. In late 2050, this is the everywhere to everywhere picture. And there are many dramatic examples of everywhere to everywhere missionaries. Meet Alma and Richard Navarro, a clergy couple from the Philippines in mission in Taiwan with the Overseas Filipino Workers Ministries. Their ministries provides access to worship, educational and social opportunities for migrant workers. The Overseas Filipino Workers Ministry is a partnership among global ministries, the Methodist Church in Taiwan, and United Methodist in the Philippines. There are an estimated 100,000 Filipinos working in Taiwan today. Alma and Richard are only 2 of many United Methodist missionaries working among immigrants and refugees, some voluntary migrants and some displaced persons, both outside and inside their home countries. Meet Marcelo Gomes, a lay pastor from Brazil, who is a missionary working with the Brazilian community in the Miami area in the United States. Marcelo is one of several missionaries from Latin America serving Spanish and Portuguese-speaking immigrant communities in the US. Meet George Miller, a pastor from New Mexico, now missionary coordinator of international and migrant ministries for the United Methodist Church in Frankfurt, Germany. Many immigrants going into Europe these days, especially those from Africa, have Methodist roots. When welcomed into local churches, they contribute greatly to congregational revitalization, and they themselves become agents of God's mission. Meet Mary Zigbu, a native of North Carolina in the United States, who with her late husband Herbert served for many years in Liberia, working with the church there in a range of educational, health, and church development ministries. She returned to the United States in 2010, serving in a community development project in her home state, and then in the area of missionary training. In late 2014, Mary voluntarily returned to Liberia at the height of the Ebola epidemic there, working with the Liberia Church's Board of Health in Education for prevention and safe response to the very deadly disease. Mary is now Health Project Manager for the Episcopal area of Liberia, based at Ganta Hospital. She works closely with the Liberian Church's health office and also its Department of Connectional Ministries. Meet Fuxia Wang, who grew up not believing in God in mainland China and today is a missionary in Oklahoma in the United States, working among the growing Chinese community clustered around the University of Oklahoma. Fuxia originally came to the US to do graduate study. She was found by Christ and experienced a call to ministry and mission. She is one of more than 30 church and community worker missionaries who serve in the United States, notably in poor, marginalized and immigrant communities. Many missionaries globally and in the US today engage in ministry with the poor and in all 4 areas of focus of the United Methodist Church: starting new churches, involved in leadership development, and also in global health. Underscoring the everywhere to everywhere reality, and sometimes also working with migrants and refugees, our Global Mission Fellows, young persons from age 20 to 30 who give 2 years of service in justice ministries. More than 150 young adults from 5 continents have volunteered as mission fellows. The program draws young adults from units of the United Methodist Church, autonomous partners Methodist churches in Asia and Latin America. In 2013, these young adults came from 9 countries. In 2015, the number had climbed to 22 countries. Just recently in Zimbabwe, we commissioned over 30 young adult missionaries from 14 different countries. Here is just a sample of the diversity of homelands and assignments. Alec Mula from Zambia serves in Liberia. Hee-Yin Lee from South Korea in Japan. Mavula Kefers from Nigeria in Germany. Kelsey Gatza from the United States in South Africa. And Merlin Metzler from Estonia in Brazil. Challenges do arise as we strive to be authentically global in mission, to implement an everywhere-to-everywhere approach in mission service. One of the challenges relates to national restrictions on foreign work permits and travel visas. For example, it is almost impossible these days to get governmental permission for international global mission fellows to work for 2 years in the United States. Some European airports have denied transit visas inside their terminals to missionaries traveling, say, from Africa to Latin America. Everywhere to everywhere mission service can be severely complicated by political and security factors. Another challenge pertains to funding. Support for all missionary originates in local churches, notably in the United States. Sometimes givers are reluctant to support missionaries they don't know or who seem foreign. We had a situation recently in which a group of mid-American congregations had covenant support with a missionary from their area, working in the African country of Cameroon. That missionary retired. Global Ministries decided to send as replacement the Reverend Kemper. He is a pastor originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo, then working in Senegal. The American group withdrew its covenant. Such actions indicates a lack of trust within the connections of the church and undercuts the sense of global mission. A third challenge arises from cultural expectations of whom and what a missionary is. Take, for example, the same change in missionaries in Cameroon. The Reverend Njungu, the incoming missionary, had proved himself to be a competent and creative leader in Senegal. But some of the United Methodist Church members in Cameroon left the church when he arrived. They did not want an African missionary. They wanted a white missionary, as they had been used to, who could attract funding from the United States and open special relationships. Expectations flow in many directions within an international, multicultural institution such as the United Methodist Church. The concept of missionaries from everywhere to everywhere in an authentically global church is also strongly biblical. Jesus lays out a mission mandate for the church in two New Testament passages we all know, Matthew 28:19 and Acts 1:8. Both are global in scope, making disciples of all people and witnessing to the end of the earth. And both are addressed to the original disciples. But each of them anticipates an expanding community of mission. The book of Acts tells the stories of numerous men and women who were not original disciples, who picked up the work and set us on the course of becoming an authentically global church with missionaries from everywhere to everywhere, in obedience to God. The mission statement of Global Ministries reminds us, the Spirit is always moving to sweep the church into a new mission age. With openness and gratitude, we await the leading of the Spirit in ways not yet seen, as God continues to work God's purposes in our own day in a new way.